In this video, we're going to talk about sunk cost. A sunk cost, as economists define it, is any cost that cannot be recovered once it's been incurred. Some examples of that include non-refundable tickets. If you ever take a vacation, you can often get lower price tickets at hotels and so forth if you agree to take a non-refundable ticket. So once you paid that, you can't recover that money if you choose not to go. In many businesses, there are some licensing fees and permit fees that you have to spend to open the business, but you can't transfer them if you sell the business to someone else. So as a result, once you paid them, they're gone. You can't get them back. If you invest in research and development and you find that the product that's developed is not marketable, you can't recover that money, and no one's going to buy the research from you if it turned out to be non-productive. One of the most important types of sunk costs that affect all of us is that once we spent time on one activity, we can't recover that to use that time for something else. Now, one of the things that economists argue is that when individuals are rational, sunk costs don't matter. That sunk costs should not affect future decisions. Once you paid them, they've been made, you can't get them back, so they shouldn't affect what you do from that point forward. Let's consider an example of that. Suppose a farmer spends $100,000 planting and cultivating a crop, and then when it gets to harvest time, it's going to cost $20,000 to harvest and bring this crop to market, but the crop will only sell for $40,000. So obviously they're going to lose some money. But the question is, should that $100,000 affect that decision? An economist would argue that those sunk costs shouldn't matter, because all that matters is whether it's worth spending the additional $20,000 to get that $40,000. You've lost that $100,000 either way, so it doesn't make one decision better or worse. It wouldn't matter whether you had spent $1 planting and cultivating the crop or $100,000. All that matters at this point are the costs going forward. So the argument here basically is that decision is not affected by the fact that there were these sunk costs or the size of those sunk costs. So that $100,000 is lost no matter what you do, and therefore it shouldn't affect the choice that you make. But I suppose we should address this question and answer, what should this person do? Well, the answer is pretty straightforward. This farmer should harvest his crop because the $40,000 gained is more than the additional $20,000 of cost. So by harvesting it, they come out $20,000 ahead. If they don't harvest it, they will not gain that $20,000. In either case, they've lost $100,000. If you harvest a crop, you spent $120,000 and you lose $40,000, which means you've lost $80,000. If you don't harvest it, you've lost $100,000. So what happens here is that $100,000, because it's on both sides of that decision, is just a net loss that's going to occur anyway and doesn't affect whether the choice is good or bad from that point forward. So again, this is why economists argue that sunk costs don't matter, because once they're incurred, they're in the past, you can't get them back in any way, and going forward, all that matters is what's the best decision from that point onward. One problem, though, is that all of us, to some extent, will often take sunk costs into account and not always behave in a perfectly rational way. Let's talk about some ways in which we might observe this. Have you ever left a movie theater in the middle of a movie that you find horrible? Most people will stay even if they're not enjoying it because they already took the time to drive there and they've spent the money on it. They want to get their money's worth from a movie. But when you think about it, that money is gone whether you stay or go. If you're really not enjoying it, consider whether you might be better just leaving. But if you do leave, try not to disturb everyone else around you. Another way in which sunk costs often show up is that sometimes people stay in bad relationships because people have already invested so much time into it. And basically, the time that you spent in the past is a sunk cost. That time you spent you can't get back, so what matters at this point is whether you're better off staying in that relationship or leaving it. Another possible way in which this could occur is if you stay at a job or an occupation that you spend a lot of money training for, but you discover you really don't like it. But you say, well, I spent all these years going to college to learn how to do this, or I spent all this time learning the job. I have to stay with it. But if you really are unhappy in it, you may want to consider whether you might be more happy in a different job or occupation. It's similar to the movie theater. If you spend a lot of money on a concert ticket, will you stay even if it's a really bad performance? Many people will feel, well, if it's a free performance, I'll just leave because I didn't pay anything for it. But if you pay $50, $60, $70, or $100 or more dollars for a ticket, many people will stay simply because it costs so much. Yet, that money is gone no matter whether you stay or leave. If you're not enjoying it, you'd be better off leaving no matter how much it costs to be there.